You've got a couple of main factors here. Prices are trending up. We don't know if it's seasonality or volatility. Volume is way down, which is having an impact on the real estate profession substantially. And we are probably heading into what I would call a sideways market. And we don't know whether or not this spring market is going to represent a bull trap. Okay, so today we're going to take a look at the Toronto Real Estate Board's Market Watch and go over a little bit of data and see what's happening in the Toronto real estate market. There's a lot of realtors sharing anecdotes that the market is hot again.
That's hot. 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 That's hot.
And I would say that you have seen an uptick since January, which is typically a slow month. And so what we need to do here is establish whether or not this uptick is actually meaningful in data, or if we've just returned to seasonality, or if we're seeing volatility in the market right now. So looking at page 1 of TRREB's Market Watch, at the bottom right-hand corner, they have a year-over-year summary. And from my perspective, that tells you almost everything you need to know about the Toronto real estate market right now. It tells us that sales are down 47% year over year. So 47% less homes sold this February than last February. Well, last February was exceptionally hot, and so some people are saying that's not a very reliable data point. New listings are down 40.9%. So you're hearing a lot about inventory being scarce and that's keeping prices sticky. And I would generally agree with that. Active listings, however, beginning to pile up because the pace of sales is slower. So it's taking longer to sell properties. So active listings are up 38.1% compared to February of last year. Average price is down 17.9%. And the average days on market is up 200%. So this tells us that properties are taking twice as long to sell on average. And so you could actually see a continuation of that piling up of inventory in the Toronto real estate market. The last time we saw a drop of this magnitude was in 2017. During that time, prices dropped by 14.3% from March 2017 to 2018. Volume dropped by 40%, 39.5%, and days on market doubled from 10 to 20 days. Real estate practitioners who were active in 2017 will remember that year as being exceptionally difficult, but not impossible. And I think we're going to go through something similar this year. And I've noted that the drop in volume, the drop in total dollar volume is one of the biggest challenges that I think that is facing the real estate profession right now. To contextualize that, when you combine decreasing prices with the decreasing volume, we saw $4.24 billion worth of real estate change hands in February of 2023, comparing that to $12.14 billion in February of 2022. So assuming that the average commission is 5%, just for the sake of the math here, this means that the GTA real estate market gave out $607 million in realtor commissions in 2022 in February, and just $262 million in commissions in February of 2023. So you've seen a greater than 50% reduction in the income available to real estate professionals. And now let's jump over and look at price. So we're hearing a lot of evidence that bidding wars are coming back and prices are coming up again. And price has moved up on an average and median basis on a month-over-month basis. And we are seeing an uptrend in number of properties sold over asking. So in January, 26% of properties sold over asking. In February, 36% of properties sold over asking. So pretty substantial jump up. It's worth keeping an eye on that data point. When you look at sales prices, we do know that we're down significantly, but the last time we saw prices actually increase was July of last year, and they increased from July into August ever so slightly. Now we're seeing a pretty significant jump up, the biggest jump we've seen since February of last year. And a lot of people are saying, I guess, if I were to put my bull hat on here, which I actually have. If I were to put my bull hat on here, the realtors would say, bottom's in, prices are going to go up. And if I were to put my bear hat on here, I would say that's probably what's called a bull trap. And if you look at a bull trap, it's basically when people think prices are rising during a bear market and they rush in and thinking that it's the last chance that they're going to get, and then prices continue to decline thereafter.
Oh no. We woke up the mama. I don't want to die.
Whether or not we're actually seeing the bull case or the bear case happening in today's market is yet to be determined. It really is going to depend on the spring market, and it's going to depend on the path of inflation and the path of interest rates over the next 6 to 12 months. But the reality is it takes 6 to 12 months for the impact of interest rates to be felt. And so we have an entire year worth of rate hikes behind us that are really just starting to make their way into the market. And so it's worth paying attention to what happens as a result of that. If you want to contextualize this a little bit, if you look at the last major peak in Canadian housing, the best place to do this is on the Economist website. If you just Google Economist house prices, Q1 of 1989, the housing market in Canada peaked. It fell sharply into the summer, and then it peaked again in Q4, and then it fell until 1998. So two peaks, and then interest rates made their way into the market, and the market actually fell slowly for a long period of time. And I could see that unless interest rates get solved sometime relatively quickly, which isn't going to happen from my perspective, it does take a while for the impacts and the fullness of this price decline to make its way through the market. You have every year new people renewing at higher capital costs. The financial stress takes a long time to materialize because people only have to pay their mortgage once a month. And it takes 90 days for somebody to be in arrears before they go power of sale and actually sell that property. The next thing I would look at again is volume, and I mentioned that volume is exceptionally low. So February did just beat November of last year, and then the two most recent months were December and January were exceptionally low. So we are seeing a recovery in volume, but nothing near where we were from this time last year. As mentioned in the TRREB Market Watch, volume is down 47%. So the last thing that I would look at to see whether or not prices are actually moving up is the sale to list price ratio. And so for the last 6 months, 7 months, we saw the sale to list price ratio below 100%. And for context, the sale to list price ratio actually peaked at just shy of 120% in February of last year. And it dropped 4 months in a row and then eventually got below 100%. To me, that's a market that is in downward price discovery. And now moving into this February, we're seeing the sale to list price ratio jump up over 100%, which could mean that we're in a market that is in upward price discovery mode, means that more properties are selling over asking. What this tells me is that, and there's really no way to know exactly what's happening, is that we've likely returned to a more seasonal cycle in real estate, and people will want to say that the market's on a long-term trajectory upward again, but that's likely not the case. We do see ebbs and flows in price in the spring and fall market, just based on composition mix and based on the number of buyers and sellers in the market at that time. So I would caution people to think, who are thinking about rushing into the real estate market right now because it looks like prices are accelerating again, and really take a more long-term view of what the macro looks like right now, where we have increasing interest rates, we have financial stress mounting, we're likely looking at a recession. One of the things that really surprised me that hasn't been talked about a lot is we saw 0% GDP growth in the Canadian economy in the last quarter of 2022. So to me, there's a variety of factors that still need a long time to come out in the wash. And my long-term view would be that the market's likely going to trade very slowly downward over the foreseeable future. The things that I would really watch for is a lot of people exiting the real estate profession because as I mentioned early on, the availability of commission is down 50%. So real estate income is down 50%. Not a lot of people are going to tell you that, but that's really what's happening in the market right now. And that could have a healing impact on the economy because you start getting people actually filling a lot of these job vacancies that the Bank of Canada is looking at, and we start to see the employment rate go up because it's still not going up. Or sorry, the unemployment rate go up because it's still not going up. So overall, I would say you've got a couple of main factors here. Prices are trending up. We don't know if it's seasonality or volatility. Volume is way down, which is having an impact on the real estate profession substantially. And we are probably heading into what I would call a sideways market, and we don't know whether or not this spring market is going to represent a bull trap or a return to a growth scenario. Those are sort of the bear and the bull cases for what we're seeing in the data right now. So I'll circle back next month with an update, and we'll see. My guess would be that we're not going to see that much growth in prices for February into March, and that we'll look at a pretty stable and probably balanced spring market in the Greater Toronto area for 2023. Thanks a lot for taking the time to listen to this video. If it created any value for you, I'd really appreciate if you subscribe to the channel, hit the like button down below, leave me a thoughtful comment or argue with me in the comments, and I'd be happy to have a little bit of a debate with you. And if there's anything that you would like me to cover in the future, I would love to hear that feedback as well. Any specific data points, any trends that you're seeing in the market, happy to do some primary research and create as much value as I can for you, those people interested in the Greater Toronto real estate market.